right now. Today is the day that you choose to change the rest of your life. It is time to turn your setback into the greatest comeback story ever told, and nobody is more capable than you. This is the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast, the future #1 weight loss podcast in the world. I am your host, Donato Russo. I hope you enjoy the show today. If this is your first time here and you enjoy the show, please subscribe and spread the word of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast wherever you are and to whomever will listen. If you'd like to connect on social media or wherever else, check out my Linktree page, Linktree/the Ranting Weight Watcher. Let's connect today.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 195 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. If this is your first time here, I want to welcome you to the show. If you enjoy it, please consider subscribing. If the app that you're using to listen to the show allows you to write a review or rate the show, please consider writing a review and leaving a 4-star or 5-star rating. Doing this will promote the podcast growth by updating an algorithm, which in turn will make it easier for anyone else looking for a weight loss or related podcast that is using the same app as you. One of the best things you could do to support this podcast is to literally tell anyone you know that is in the same position we are all in, trying to live a healthy life. Tell them about the show. Show them how to find it. We have a new financial supporter. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for becoming part of the team of people that have decided to invest their money in the growth of this podcast. And a special thanks to my continued supporters who have already been financially supporting the podcast. Thank you so much to every one of you who considers the Ranting Weight Watcher a worthy investment of your hard-earned money. If you are interested in becoming a financial supporter of this podcast, there is a Linktree link in the description of every podcast episode. When you click it, you will be taken to a website where you will see a button that says Become a Financial Supporter. Click that button and you will be given the options available so that you can choose from there. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey updates. I am up this week. Man, am I up. 3.4 pounds up. It was definitely expected. The 4th of July holiday was a heavy carb holiday. And as you know, when you ingest foods that are out of the norm, you're going to have a reaction of some sort, and the scale is bound to go up. But since we are expecting it, I am also expecting that the fact that I got back to work and doing whatever I do is going to create the scenario that the 3.4 pounds is gone again. So today I'm titling the episode, The Short Game versus the Long Game. In the 5.5 years I'm here, I can say to you that there was a moment where I had to turn away from everything I thought I knew in order to progress forward. And that time will happen to every single one of you listening to me. The question is not if it will happen. The question is when it will happen. Everybody has a different amount of weight to lose, and it's all proportionate. Okay? In the beginning, weight fell off of me because I had so much to lose. I needed very, very little change in my life to actually create difference. And as my time went on and on and on, I had to make slight changes. Changes that I can honestly tell you I did not foresee when this all started. I always tell people that if I could go back in time And I'm not talking about to like my childhood or whatever. I'm talking about to day one of WW. If I can go back to, you know what? No, not day one of WW. If I can go back in time to the moment I decided to introduce exercise into my life, that specific moment. So it was the day that my coach was handing me the 50-pound charm. I was receiving the charm for losing 50 pounds. And in my head, there was one resounding voice. And that voice was telling me, you will not lose another 50 without finally introducing exercise. So I began to create a plan that would introduce exercise into my life. This is the moment I would travel back in time to. Because if I knew then what I knew now, I would change the way I did this. Because there is a short game and there is a long game in regards to exercise. Now, the short game in regards to exercise is something that essentially everybody is telling you you need to do. They're going to tell you, get on the treadmill, get on a bike, go for a walk. I'm not telling you any of these choices are bad choices. I'm telling you that these choices are the short game. They bring quick results, but the results are not long term. Things will change eventually. And if you don't adapt when they change, you might find yourself going in the opposite direction. So if I can go back in time to a moment, it would be the moment I decided to introduce walking into my life. And I would instead choose the long game. I would start with strength training. The results don't come nearly as fast. Building a core group of muscles and building them over time will cause a bunch of things to happen in your body that many people aren't of the knowledge level to understand when the time comes. This is why going out and walking is so much more appealing. Because you could understand, I walked this many miles. I walked around the block twice. You understand that. And then going from twice to 3 times is essentially a success and shows progress. But strength training is not easily seen. Unless you're getting DEXA scans, you don't know how much muscle you're building. Unless you're taking measurements all the time. Even then, even taking measurements all the time, the results come so slowly, it's very hard to notice. So it takes a lot more patience. But when you get the results, when the results from strength training finally arrive, see, when I get on a treadmill, when I go for a walk, when I get on a bike, the minute I decide I'm done, calorie burning is over. It's done. But if I built my core muscle groups and I'm strength training, the calorie burn continues whether I'm at the gym or at home. So even though you decided, okay, I'm done for the day, your muscles are still working to burn calories that you aren't essentially working for at that moment. This also comes as an advantage in situations like the 4th of July holiday. If you thought of the long game when this all started, facing something like the 4th of July, you can take in 500-600 more calories for that one day, and you wouldn't even blink an eye because it would never show up on the scale because your muscle would meet the demand. And you would never even see the huge jump. So where someone like me, who has spent the overwhelming majority of my time on my health journey with cardio-based workouts, I have the 4th of July come, and I come on Saturday to find myself 3.5 pounds heavier. That doesn't happen when you decide to play the long game and make strength training your focus on how you will become fit. So when I say I'd go back in time and concentrate on the long game in regards to exercise, it's for those ideas in mind. The crazy part in all this, there's so many parallels between gastric bypass and GLP-1 drugs. There's so many parallels in the results area. What happens to the body in the process? A lot of people aren't talking about this because they're not examining it, and we won't know it for many years later. Now, here we are in 2024. We can tell you that anybody who has had the gastric bypass Roux-en-Y procedure, there are two things that happens to the overwhelming majority of those people. They have made it a standard procedure to, if they're going to go in and do this procedure, that standard procedures now is while you're in there, remove the gallbladder. Because almost every single patient that had this procedure eventually has a gallbladder issue. So while you're in there doing the procedure, go ahead and remove the gallbladder. That is now standard procedure. Another thing that happens to people that have had my Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery, hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is now a side effect of the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery. The problem is traditional hypoglycemia. If you've ever seen the movie Paul Blart Mall Cop with Kevin James, you'll know that he always had to have candy in his pocket because he was a traditional hypoglycemic. His sugar would drop if he didn't eat on a normal schedule. They had to make a new name for people like me who gave themselves hypoglycemia because they had the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass surgery. That new name is called post-bariatric hypoglycemia. And the difference between me and Paul Blart is simple. If I never touch sugar, I literally never have a problem. If I never actually go crazy and eat sugar, I never have an issue. A hypoglycemic needs to keep it because at any given moment, if he hasn't ate on a schedule, he will have the problem that his sugar drops and needs something to bring it back up, or he'll pass out. If I introduce sugar, my body will produce more than the needed amount of insulin to handle the amount of sugar taken in, which also in turn causes a drop. And the drop is so drastic that I have to then eat more sugar or drink more sugar in order to bring it back up again. But if I never touch sugar, I never have the issue. That's the difference between hypoglycemia and post-bariatric hypoglycemia. And now with GLP-1, we won't know the real effects of that until 10, 15 years from now. The crazy part of either way, whether it's the GLP-1 or whatever, is because you're creating such a dramatic change, it's almost guaranteed that a lot of the weight that would be lost would be muscular. Especially the people that aren't so used to eating so much protein. And they think they could supplement this with protein shakes, whatever. I'll just drink the protein. Oh, it's a protein pancake. It's a protein Pop-Tart. It's a protein bar. Another short game versus long game category is going to be food. When we generally start, it's hard for us to let go of what got us to the position we're in. So when you start a new life, when you start trying to become healthy, you start to think like, oh, I'm not ready to let go of this. I'm not ready to let go of that. So you try to live your new life by bringing stuff from your old life with you. But you have decided that, okay, I'll eat this stuff, but I'm going to weigh and measure it. And that brings some results. But how long do the results stick around? As long as you keep stuff from your old life in your life. And maybe you progress a little bit and you see, like I did, that the scale is slowing down and I need to make real change here. And you make another short-term decision. And you choose everything that they say is good, all of the low-fat stuff. Highly processed food that's low in points, low in calories. That's what we're choosing. Because that's what they say. They told us is healthy. Eat low fat. The crazy part is the long game with regards to food. And again, the reason I could tell you this is I'm here 5.5 years. I've done everything that I've said so far. Literally everything I've said. I went in there looking for the low-fat items. Whatever was the lowest point items on the WW app I was eating. Did it bring results? Yes, it brought results. It also brought hunger. That sounds weird, right? Because that was short game. I became a grazer. And I'm not saying you can't lose weight being a grazer, because I did. I lost weight eating every 2 hours. One, I ensured I never became hungry. And two, as long as I prepared for it, I only ate what I prepared. So the idea was there, was solid. There was no issue. But it was the short game. We're going to take a break. Don't go anywhere. I now present to you the Ranting Weight Watcher Accountability Creed. If you choose this day to say this creed, you are accountable to me, the author. You are also accountable to all of those before you who have taken the creed, and all of those after you who will take the creed. But most of all, you are accountable to yourself. Now recite with me the Accountability Creed. Nothing can stand in my way because I choose to be unstoppable.
My challenges crumble in my presence because I choose strength when I am weak. My insecurities have no power over my life because I choose confidence in the face of fear. I own every last one of my mistakes because I choose growth over mediocrity. The mirror and the scale are powerless because I move forward in spite of the result. Circumstances are not obstacles because I see solutions instead of problems. The demons of my past can no longer torment me because I choose to renew my mind daily. All things are possible as long as I believe, because if God is for me, who can be against me? This is the creed I declare each day. It is about what I do, not what I say. I will learn the work that needs to be done. I will never stop, even when I've won. I will work consistently, no matter the cost. I refuse to believe that all hope is lost. I will work when I want to. I will work when I don't. I will work when they are cheering. I will work when they won't. I will work when it's easy. I will work when it's hard. The atonements that I've made are made with no regard. I will work when it's cold. I will work when it's hot, because choices have consequences, justified or not. When I think I know it all, I will start back at one, because regardless of what I think, the work is never done. And from this moment forward, when times are tough, I choose to believe that I am enough.
And we are back. Thanks for sticking with me. As somewhere along the line, I realized that there had to be a change. I had to change the way I was eating to be less processed. So I started to drop things that had a lot of ingredients. This transition took for a really long time. I'm not going to lie. I don't know the exact amount of, it's definitely years. Let's just say that. Because there were so many things I thought I couldn't live without in this process. But the quest became trade the foods that had the highest number of ingredients with other foods that had less. And you know what made me realize this? So during the time of COVID, when they started introducing the WW virtual workshops, and then they had the national coaches, and I met Sophie for the first time, I noticed that I was eating those snacks, the WW snacks that they would create that were low in points. And it was, okay, this is like eating this chip. This is like eating pretzels. This is like, everything was like to make it you feel like you were snacking on something you used to snack on. But when I noticed I was eating these things, I could never eat just one. I never eat just one. So what did I do? I traded something like that with multiple ingredients for something that was a single ingredient, a fruit. In most cases, I traded every single WW snack I was eating for a fruit. Overwhelming majority of them. I took some vegetables into consideration too. I mean, there aren't many vegetables you can eat raw, to be honest. And that's what I was doing, though. I was choosing vegetables I could eat raw. This was slowly done. As I made these switches, the byproduct of making the switches from short game choices in regards to food to long game was the hold that food had on me was not nearly as strong as it used to be. All of the sudden, I was breaking the chains that food held on my life by simply switching a multiple ingredient food to a single ingredient food. But you know what? Here's the real kicker. We live in a world that has basically directed everyone's eyes to look at everything backwards. Society teaches you in so many ways to live like there's no tomorrow. You only live once. Go ahead and live it up. Have a good time. And you go crazy for however long. And you never think twice about the possible ramifications of the choices you're making. But then there's a breaking point. And the breaking point is either fueled by your unhappiness or your ailment. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you're staring at yourself in the mirror and you don't like what you see. And you try to take control of your life based on the unhappiness you feel of what you see in the mirror. Sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just don't feel right. And you make an appointment, you go to see somebody wearing a white coat, and they tell you, well, we'll do these tests and we'll see what it is. They do a bunch of tests, and based on those tests, all they ever do is look at what symptoms were caused by your lifestyle and how do we minimize those symptoms so you can go on living your life. The question is never really about changing your life. I mean, that's not as far-fetched as it sounds when you start paying attention to diabetes commercials. People in diabetes commercials are checking their blood sugar to make sure they should eat or shouldn't eat something at a restaurant. You're being taught to live with your ailment rather than do what it takes to cure it. And that's not just diabetes, that's everything. But while we're living it up, we never make the connection that we are in the position we are in that morning when we are staring at ourselves in the mirror and don't like what we see, or we find ourselves in an office where the guy with a white coat is telling us what we need to do. We never make the connection that the last days, weeks, months, years of your life have essentially built this moment. No one would ever question what I was saying if I was talking about retirement. If I was talking about retirement and I said, person A never saved a dime, spent everything, and he actually even spent even more than what he earned, and now does not have any money to retire. You'd say, well, that was stupid. He shouldn't have done that. He should have saved his money. No one thinks in the same fashion with the same logic when it comes to your health. You spend your health frivolously, making choices that are completely joyful in the moment. Never is a consideration for what is this doing to my future. You're too busy enjoying the moment. And whether you wake up and you stare in the mirror and not liking what you see, or you wake up and find yourself in an office waiting in a waiting room for somebody with a white coat to help you with your ailment. Everything you do from that point on enables a moment of perceived success, right? So you wake up in the morning, you don't like the way you look. You say, okay, what do I need to do to lose weight? And the short game is readily presented to you just with a simple Google search. On the other side of that, if we are in the doctor's office because we don't feel well, rather than saying, this is what you need to do to stop this from happening, a lot of the times you'll hear an enabling message there. A short game. The doctor is telling you, well, 60% of people your age have this problem. 70% of people your age are dealing with the same thing. So your age is the problem. Nothing is ever pointed at your lifestyle. Nothing was ever pointed at the fact that you frivolously spent your life buying things on credit. And now you sit in his office and the bill comes due. But the man with the white coat has been taught never to point the finger at the cause. He doesn't say, well, you should have been spending the last 15, 20 years saving 10% of your income, 20% of your income, whatever the case may be. He just looks at the situation right now and says, well, what can we do to alleviate this pressure? What can we do to make this easier? Because you know what? 60% of their people are broke right now at your age. So it's normal to be broke at your age. So what can we do to find you some help? See where I'm going with this? So when you're told this and you sit there and you start looking around you and you see all your friends, everybody who's the same age as you, and they're all going through the same things, it becomes very easy to say, this is old age. This is what happens. You're never directed to look at what caused it. What is the cause? What is the root cause of why you're here? You're broke and you're at retirement age and you can no longer work. You're sick, unhealthy, and all you want to do is have a normal life. Well, take these pills. Take these pills and you'll feel a little bit better. But those pills might cause this, this, and this. But if you do feel this, this, and this, come back. So instead of changing that medication, they add more medication to alleviate those things that were caused by the first medication. And then the system just builds on that, because every new medication introduced is a new possible ailment to be created. You're never taught to look at your lifestyle and blamed for your own problems. Instead, they normalize everything they can. They say, well, your parents had this problem. You must have inherited it. Well, 60% of your people your age have this problem. It's just part of life. It's the age you're in. It's your biology. Your body is just different than everybody else's. And that's why this has happened to you. It's outside of your control. You can't help it. We look at it all wrong. We go to remedy that problem that we created by following some health plan that we pay somebody to give us. And the minute we don't see results, it's not working. Everything is structured on creating results. It is not structured to undo the last 15 years of your life. It is structured to create results right now. They're not paying attention to all the other behavior that created this. They're just trying to give you some results to alleviate the pain from the situation you're in. You don't like the way you look. Well, let's give you some results to make you feel a little warm and fuzzy. But never remedy the true cause of the situation so that whatever results you create, you can actually keep. What would happen? What would happen if you realized the cause of your problems? The guy wearing the white coat wouldn't see you as much. You wouldn't be prescribed any pills. And you might actually live a happy life. And you might see through the bullshit that is, this is hereditary. Well, it's your age. This is your biology. All bullshit. We should be looking at investing in our body. Let me say it like that, because I had the whole bank analogy. I might as well keep going with it. Investing in our body, learning everything we can need to know about how to invest in the body, without the goal being a scale result, without the goal of being on pills and medication, but the goal, the true goal, is to be 98, 99 years old and playing with great grandkids, running after them, and the whole world staring at you like, how? How? That's the goal. The goal is to live a long, healthy life. And when you learn that, the scale comes anyway. Instead, they make the scale the focus, and any trip in the wrong direction is perceived as failure. And how much failure could you possibly endure before you quit? You have heard me say so many times in the last 195 episodes of this podcast. This is not about chasing a scale result. It's about so much more. What's truly involved in becoming the greatest version of yourself is far beyond a scale result. Because you know what's really sad here? The sad thing is, when I just said a few minutes ago about being 97, 98, 99 years old and playing and running after great grandchildren, all of you laughed as if that's impossible. Impossible. And you know what that's fueled by? That's fueled by because you've already accepted that none of this is in your control. Because somebody in a white coat told you, somebody on TV told you, whatever the case may be, that this is normal. It's hereditary. It's your age. Your biology. It's not your fault. You only live once. Go out and have a good time. Waste your life now so you don't have one later. If they said it like that, would you listen to them? Waste your life now so you don't have one later. The average life expectancy in this country right now is 76 years old. Retirement age is 65. If you did everything right and you can retire at 65, your life expectancy is 11 years. Congratulations on your 65 years of hard work. Here's 11 years before you die. Does that sound like a good life? Does that sound like you did things right? Meanwhile, there's someone like me here sitting at a microphone every week telling you that learning how to nourish your body is more important than figuring out how many points something is. Proper nourishment is more important. When you give the body the nourishment it needs, everything changes as a byproduct. The scale number changes, your desire for food changes, literally everything. And I've given you a treasure map. I can't call it the map to get to where you're going because it's a treasure map. You have to figure it out. And I gave you the start. I gave you the first clue. The first clue is, if you eat 10 things, get your ingredients to as close to 10 as you possibly can. And how do you do that? You start by figuring out where you are now. If you're eating 10 things in a day and your ingredient list is in the hundreds, whatever things you're eating that have the highest ones, start there. Start there, because those ingredients, they don't have your best interests at heart. They have you're blowing your life anyway, so it doesn't matter. Just make sure it tastes good while you die. If we are gonna break that hold on your body, then learning proper nourishment is the way to break the chains that food has placed on your body. I tell you this because I am breaking those chains for the last 5.5 years. Nourishment, proper nourishment, is the key to longevity. And longevity is what it's all about. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.